Details this morning about what exactly went into Kamala Harris's decision to pick Minnesota Governor Tim Walz as her running mate over the other finalists. A source familiar with the vetting process detailed the weaknesses Harris's team believed they saw with both Arizona Senator Mark Kelly and Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, adding that Harris saw Walz as someone she could trust during the campaign and in office. Joining us now, NBC's Monica Alba from Washington, and Dan Morain, a longtime California journalist who wrote a biography of Harris. It's called Kamala's Way, An American Life. First, let me start with you, Monica. This source said Harris was going with her gut in choosing Walz. What else are we learning?
That's right, Ana. And because she didn't have a lot of time, her gut, her sort of immediate chemistry with Tim Walz was a key factor in her ultimate decision making. And obviously, they go through all of the key criteria. You want somebody who's going to be a good governing partner, we were told, somebody who is going to be loyal to you, somebody who's going to have your back, somebody who shares many of your values and vision and agenda. But overall, this was something that seemed to come down to the way that they were able to spend a little bit of time together on Sunday and the conversation that they had. And ultimately, Vice President Harris felt that this was someone who she really could build a trusting relationship with, and that this was somebody who wanted to talk about getting access to more rights and freedoms for middle-class families, who she really enjoyed the fact that he is a former high school football coach, a veteran, a gun owner, a hunter, somebody who really has focused on areas that are kind of a complement and contrast to her own experience. And ultimately, I was told, Ana, you have to think about this as, is this somebody that I want to sit down and have lunch with every week for 4 years? Is that the kind of person? And ultimately, for the vice president, Governor Walz was that individual.
And who was her close inner circle? Who was she relying on through this process?
We know that there was a compressed timeline for the vetting, but there were a couple of people who were brought in to do a little bit more of that and to really consult with her as they went through and whittled down the list of candidates. And that includes people who were in the cabinet before, like Marty Walsh. That includes people like Cedric Richmond, who had been a co-chair for the Biden campaign, who is now working with the Harris campaign, and Senator Catherine Cortez Masto of Nevada. So these are people who bring different perspectives from their experience, from their past lives, who were also really key in drilling down on some of the key potential drawbacks or vulnerabilities of some of the candidates, we're told as well. And they had to really do this in the span of a couple of days. They had to do this in these really small meetings that were behind closed doors. But ultimately, the decision was up to Vice President Harris. She said she wanted to kind of sleep on it to solidify what she felt was right, again, in her gut. But she said that really this decision for her was an easy one based on the chemistry and connection she had with Tim Walz. Ana.
Well, Monica, thank you for the reporting. And Dan, you've been covering Harris for a long time. What do you make of her decision-making process in choosing a running mate? Does this sound like her usual MO?
You know, she looks like the person I knew in California. You know, she's out there smiling, she's having a good time. And, you know, when I look at Governor Walz, I don't know him. Most Americans don't. He looks like big grins, big smiles. He's having a good time. Seems to me familiar to the Kamala Harris I know.
And so is it different, though, than the one you've been seeing since her time in California?
Well, I think her, I mean, I haven't been covering her as a vice president, but the impression I have from reading and watching her on television is it's been, you know, it's been at times rocky as vice president, much less so the last 2 years. But sure, she's under a national spotlight. It's different than a spotlight in California, although we certainly pay attention to politics out here. It's different in Washington.
I want to know more about the Kamala Harris you know, having studied her when she was there in California. She's held a lot of high-profile roles, from San Francisco District Attorney to California Attorney General to Senator, now Vice President. But the polls show a lot of voters still don't feel like they know her well. Why do you think that's the case?
Well, I'm not sure that people especially knew Mike Pence or Al Gore when they were vice presidents. Vice presidents are secondary roles. I do think that Californians have a sense of her. I think they understand that she's a smart person, quick on her feet, has a set of core values. This is not somebody who, just fell out of a coconut tree.
Which she likes to lean into, that meme that you just referenced. You say she's been underestimated throughout her career. You write in the LA Times, I saw firsthand what kind of candidate she can be. Tough, formidable, disciplined. Without a doubt, Republicans should wish they had stopped her when they had their best chance. What's been key to her successful campaigns in the past?
Well, when she ran for district attorney and when she ran for California Attorney General this first time in 2010, she was running scared. She was an underdog. She was running. Her opponent in 2010, which is the race I really paid most attention to, was the district attorney of Los Angeles, had 40 years of courtroom experience, a really experienced, very good candidate. And on election night, it was so close that he even declared victory. Well, it didn't turn out that way. She ended up winning by 70,000 votes. But, national Republicans went after her. It was, they knew that if she won that first race statewide, that she was going to be, who knows what she was going to run for, governor, senator, president. They wanted to stop her before she rose to that first statewide post as Attorney General, and they spent a lot of money trying to do it. Over $1 million back when $1 million meant something, and they almost beat her, but they didn't. And this was 2010, so that was really a red wave election.
All very interesting. And you talk about money. She's proven to be a formidable fundraiser, at least so far in this campaign. She just raised another $20 million, we heard, after her announcement yesterday with Tim Walz being chosen as her running mate. Dan Morain, thank you for providing your insights. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.